Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Step Up to the Mic. This is the place for aspiring and established speakers to take the stage, deliver their talks, and bring them directly to you. Today's featured speaker is a wonderful, wonderful human being who I have had the pleasure of getting to know over this past year. Please welcome to the stage podcaster, author, and entrepreneur Teresa Blaes.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. Today, I want to talk about something that, especially if you are an aspiring entrepreneur or podcaster, I want to talk about the 7 P's of podcasting success. Now, why does that matter? First of all, Gary Vaynerchuk is often known as saying that you are a media company first and a business second. Podcasting in itself is one of the most intimate forms of communication. You take the time to create a podcast, and then someone actually says, you know what? I'm going to take the time to put you in my ears and listen. It doesn't matter if you have 20 downloads or 5,000 downloads. Behind every download is a listener. So without further ado, let's jump into what makes a podcast successful. I'm going to couch this as a faith-based podcast. Why? Because I believe that faith is an integral part of everything that you do. You may not be a Christian. I am. And if you're not, then take this with a grain of salt or however you perceive it. With that, let's start with the first P. Pray. As you start to move forward and you say, I'm going to do a podcast, and maybe God has called you to step into it, your first task before you do anything, before you hit record, before you do anything at all, is to pray. Pray for wisdom, pray for your listeners, and pray that God would use you behind the mic. Also, pray that, there wouldn't be any warfare, because guess what? When you start a podcast, there is warfare. I've seen it time and time and time and time and time and time again. So that's what you need to do. You need to pray. And if you're not a believer, I understand that. Okay? This is no judgment on you. That's between you and God. I would say strongly consider who are you trying to reach? What kind of episode do you want to provide? And really ask yourself, what value do you want to bring? Really think about these things. The second P is plan. What type of episode are you going to do? Are you going to do a solo episode? Are you going to do an interview? Maybe you're going to do a panel type show. Maybe you're going to do another type of show where you're just reacting to things. You know what? Every single one of these is valid. I've done a few. I've done multiple shows of each kind, but you need to plan what type of episode you're going to do. You need to plan how often you're going to do episodes. You need to um plan, like, what are you going to do to get attention around your episode? You really want to have a roadmap for every single part of this you're going to do. What equipment are you going to need? What recording software are you going to use? All of that falls under plan. Okay? You want to start building your roadmap. You want to start having a plan. So pray, plan, practice. I also call this a dry run. You want to start doing some dry runs. Why? Because you want to get used to the microphone. You want to get used to actually doing the podcasting. And along this line, if you're doing a dry run, I may sometimes do 3 or 4 dry runs or practice episodes before I do the real one. Why? Because sometimes if you're new, you've never done this before, you need to get used to talking into a microphone. And for any podcaster who may be starting up a new show, guess what? You're still new because you're new to that podcast. And along that line, I'm going to say this. Embrace the suck factor. You're going to suck at first. That's good. You want to get it out of your system because you're going to be better the more episodes you do. So pray, plan, practice, produce. Now it's time to record the episode. You've already prayed, you've put out your plan, you've done some practice runs. Now it's time for you to produce. Get on the mic. Remember that unless you're doing it live, you know, you do the podcast, okay? You do the podcast and then you get it edited. Now, can you edit it yourself? Yes, but unless you're like really good at that kind of thing, I highly recommend you don't. I recommend that you hire an editor. Why? Because they already know how to do it and you may not have the time to. So, pray, plan, practice, produce, publish. Publish your episode. For that, you're going to need a podcast media host. You're going to want to have a podcast website. Okay? Now, you do not want to use just a regular old web host. Why? Because especially if your podcast starts taking off, you're going to have a lot of downloads and a lot of traffic coming to that site. You need a specific media host. I recommend Blueberry. They have been really good to us. So, you publish the episode. Then we go into the next one, promote. Promote could mean a few different things. Share it on your social medias. Make sure if you have a website, make sure that your podcast uh, pages that you produce, that you have good show notes. Why? Because Google loves written content. Okay, and you're also going to have. We also have another factor in the chat bots, the Chat GPT, because they can scrape your site and recommend your show there as well. Okay, so you want to actually optimize your show for the chat AIs and for SEO. You want to share it on social media. You want to get into different groups where you can, depending on your niche, where you can actually share about your show. Make sure you're obeying the rules of the group, but hey, when possible, be sure to share about your show. Promote. There's tons of other ways you can promote. You could go on other podcasts and guest on shows. What do you think I'm doing here? Why am I here? Because I promote my services. I promote my podcasts. And in this talk, I'm able to promote what God has shown me. So, recapping, pray, plan, practice, produce, publish, promote, and the last one I think is the most fun of all, and it's something that a lot of people don't realize you can do, and that is profit. You see, there are many ways you can monetize a podcast. It doesn't all have to be sponsorships. In fact, do you know that most sponsors won't touch you unless you have like Uber, like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads? Now, maybe some will. Maybe if you're a niche podcast and you have a kind of a niche market, but I wouldn't worry about getting sponsors right out the gate. I would do things like set up a merch store. Find an affiliate program that you can get behind that would be related to your audience. If you don't know of any affiliate program, go on to Audible, sign up for their affiliate program, and find a book that's related to your market and promote that. Set up a merch store. You could sell t shirts, mugs, hats, whatever. In some cases, maybe you want to set up a Patreon and run like a paid membership. There's tons of ways you could do this. You could write a little ebook and sell that, you know? So, really, this is something that you can do. And there's always ways you can learn to profit. There's always ways you can earn money. Do you have to? Do you want to just keep your podcast a hobby? Do you have to earn money? No, you don't. But if you want to earn money, there are absolutely ways to do it. You could create your own product. My one of my clients, she wrote a book called Kneeling at the Throne, a prayer devotional. And at the time, she just had the book. Well, since then, that book has turned into a study guide. And then she has a website. And now she has a daily prayer that goes out on her podcast, plus a audio and written devotional. Every single day, she has content going out on her podcast feed. Why? To bring back traffic to her site to sell her book. Well, and in her case, so she could pray for people because, that's what my client does best is she's an intercessory prayer warrior. But how does this work? If you're an author or an aspiring author, then you might want to start a podcast around the topic of your book. Or maybe you want to start a podcast under your own name or under a certain brand that'll give you some freedom to create other products around that. You then can use that podcast to drive traffic so that you can earn some money. So, in conclusion, this is the step framework that I was given. Me and my husband were given, and it's very, very simple. It's very cut, clean, and dry. It's very, if you deploy this, I think you'll find a lot of success. I've seen a really amazing uh, uh, turnout when it comes to this. So it's plan, or yeah, pray, plan, practice. Be sure to get that practice time in. Publish. Oh, wait. Pray, plan, practice, produce, publish, promote, and profit. Ladies and gentlemen, I think if you deploy this 7-step framework, you will find that your podcast does very well. And I think you will find yourself at peace if you know that you're keeping your podcast at the foot of, at the throne. If you're keeping your podcast in front of the one who knows exactly what you need before you open up your mouth. I challenge you to take this framework and deploy it in what God has given you to do. I'm Teresa Blaes. Thank you very much.
Teresa Blaze, everybody. Teresa, very, very informative talk, very helpful. And I tell you what, I've got a couple of questions I'd love to ask you if you have a second.
Absolutely.
All right, wonderful. Loved what you had to say there. Love that it was faith-based. You know what you're talking about. Let people know you have several podcasts. So tell them what podcast you have going right now.
Well, right now, the main two that I have right now going are the Equipped podcast, which is equipping God's people for the last days, and then Blazing Guts, which is a faith-based NFL show.
I like both of those. I've listened to both of them. The NFL show is in full swing now, right?
Oh yes, makes it keeps me very busy.
That's right. And you're a Cardinals fan, right?
Absolutely, although I'm not happy with them.
I was going to say. I understand.
Ugh,
All right.
2-5. Yeah.
You'll get
Anyway.
there. You'll get there. Hang in there. It's a long season. No, but I love it. Now listen, Teresa, you're also an author. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, just to let
Um.
people know, go ahead and tell them what you've written.
Well, so I was a part of a book called God Met Me Here. That is a compilation book, and I have a story in there. I've written Discover Your Voice, 31 Days to Faith-Based Podcasting, and we're just about to release that as a physical version. And I'm working on a book called Protected, A Story of Survival, Faith, and Redemption. It's in the editing process now.
Absolutely wonderful. I love it. I love it. All right. Like I said, that was a fantastic talk. I know people are going to get a whole lot from it. How can folks reach out and find Teresa Blaze so that they can hear more about you, listen to your podcast, or find your book?
Um, you can find me at teresablaze.com. You can email me, Teresa at teresablaze.com. The books themselves, the God Met Me Here and Discover Your Voice are on Amazon. And like I said, I'm going to be setting up a physical version for Discover Your Voice. If you want to learn more about Protected, because that's not just a book, it's a whole other project, because I'm also releasing a music album and hopefully an audiobook if I can figure out that piece.
All right.
You could find that at protectedbook.com.
Nice.
And then finally, if you would like our help actually helping you put together this framework that talked about, you can find us at kadoshmedia.com.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Teresa, thank you so much for being on today and for delivering such a great talk. Folks, Teresa Blaes. Teresa, thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Folks, this has been another spectacular episode of Step Up to the Mic. If you're an aspiring or current speaker and you want to bring your talk to the masses, message us today. Never stop talking and let us help you to step up to the mic.